Awesome. Welcome to the Parenting with Confidence podcast. I am your host, Teresa Alexander Inman, board certified behavior analyst and infant toddler developmental specialist. Today, I am so thrilled that Miss Catherine O'Brien is here to share her wisdom with us. Catherine is the licensed marriage and family therapist. My tongue is just so new today. And the founder of happywithbaby.com, where she helps parents thrive as caregivers and partners. She knows what it's like to be overwhelmed, out of energy, and out of ideas as a new parent. So she crafted Happy with Baby in order for new and expecting parents to discover the advice that she wishes she could have had when managing expectations of parenthood and relationships. A godsend you are, Miss Catherine O'Brien. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Let's just get right to it because, like I told, like parents need you. Yes, they do. Because when talking about not postmortem, but honestly, oh my gosh, perinatal mood affective anxiety disorder. Per-
Perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, which is
okay.
basically, I mean, that's everything from like postpartum depression, anxiety, PTSD, OCD, postpartum psychosis. And when I say postpartum, that's like any time when you become pregnant to a year postpartum. And
Mhm.
then I'll have moms come to me and they'll have a 2-year-old and they're like, I think I'm still suffering. I'm like, well, sometimes you are because maybe you didn't get the help or support you needed. Because kind of like we were talking about before, is like there's like shame and stigma, and we don't want to say anything. We don't want to tell anyone we're suffering or that we're having a difficult time, because what are they going to think, you know?
Exactly. Because like I told you, I suffered in silence. Nobody knew,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
because it was a matter
Yeah.
of what do I say? How do I even approach the subject? Does it mean that I don't love my baby? Does it mean, like, what does
Absolutely.
this mean? What message am I sending if I tell people that I have this
Mhm.
condition?
Well, and I think I don't think this. I know this because I've talked to parents about this before. Is they don't say it because they don't, they're afraid if they say, I'm having a difficult time, I'm feeling depressed, I am anxious, I'm having these intrusive thoughts, whatever it is, then somehow that's going to mean they don't love their baby. And that's absolutely not, those don't equal, one doesn't equal the other. It's not the same thing. It has nothing to do with it. um and I think that's why they stay silent, because they don't want anyone to ever think that, and they don't want their child to ever worry or think anything like that either. So
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we've heard so many sad stories where people didn't reach out
mhm,
and the consequences
mhm,
were so dire. So,
absolutely.
so I think it's really important for us to have this conversation to help moms understand and, bring
Mhm.
dads in. What can you do to support your wife who's going
Yeah,
through this?
yeah. They say up to 20% of moms will suffer with a postpartum mood or anxiety disorder. And also, it's 10% of dads of partners will also suffer. So, and I think that's sometimes not known. And then the percentage for the partner goes up to 50% if mom also has it. So I mean, it's a whole family thing that we need to be acknowledging, and like taking good care of our new parents, and acknowledging how difficult it is to be a new parent, and validating, their struggles, and, listen to them and acknowledge, and, provide support, and let them know that, that you're here for them, whether it is just to listen or just calling to check in and asking how they are. We're always like quick to say, how's the baby doing? It's like, the baby's probably doing great because the baby's well taken care of. Is the parents that I worry about, right? It's the parents that don't have the support as much. We talk about the village, like there really, we don't have villages anymore to help, surround our families and take care of them. So it's like checking in and see what they do, if they need anything, any help or anything.
Yes, that is so key. I remember a friend of mine had a baby, and we were talking about what do we get for the baby. And I
Mhm.
have a friend who's she was a lactation specialist, and she said to get something for the mom as well. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, never thought of that. She didn't have to do much, maybe a candle or some tea, just something
Mhm.
to help her you know, feel that, she's part of this process. Help her,
Yeah.
to give her something to do for herself, like I said, whether it's,
Yeah.
a candle and a cup of, and some tea where she can light a candle
Yeah.
and drink some tea and just have that moment of self-care. And
Yes.
before that, I'd never thought of it. Honestly, it's not something I ever thought of. So I was so glad that she brought that up.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's so nice. And I think we don't think about that because we don't tend to talk like that, right? Like we don't, it is always when, the mom is pregnant, we focus all on her,
Mhm.
and then the baby comes and we focus all on the baby, and it's like, no, it's like a family, it's the unit, and like how can we like celebrate that? How can we celebrate the whole family?
Exactly. And too, if there's an older child, so
Yeah.
the baby gets something and I don't.
Yeah.
So, like you said, it's a unit, so we should include
Yeah.
everybody, and yes, dads too, because
Yes.
they're so neglected when it comes to
Yeah.
parenting, because
Yeah.
in our lives, moms are the only ones who parent.
Right. Right. Like, and we need them to be involved, and and so we need to be looking at the whole unit.
Absolutely. So I really like that it incorporate everybody into this because
Hmm.
again, it's a family unit.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
Now, you say here to nurture your three prized relationships as a parent. So I'm going to
Hmm.
ask you first of all, what are those three prized relationships?
Um, well, yourself, your relationship, and then your relationship with your baby and you as a family.
Ah,
And
see?
and so I put self first for the very reason, um, we can't continue, it's like we need to take care of ourselves, right? Like that candle, the tea, like, we need to make sure that we're doing what we need to like nurture ourselves and, self-care, whatever you want to call it, um, on a daily, regular basis so that we can continue to nurture these other relationships.
Awesome. Now, if this was a test, I would have gotten that first question wrong.
What would you have said?
Self was definitely not first.
It's
It wasn't
well,
even
you know what,
considered.
it's not first. We
Yeah.
don't think of ourselves first. I mean, I this happens to me too, where it's like, oh, I'll have, plans to do something for myself, but then all of a sudden something comes up for the kids, or I have to do something for work or whatever, and that goes off. That's the easiest thing for me to take off my plate because it's just me. Like, I don't, it doesn't matter. But what I learned, that, especially the older I get, and my body tells me more often, is no, you have to do these things. Like, you have to take care of yourself. You have to make sure that you're walking regularly, or, whatever it is, because your body can't keep going. You can't keep moving through life the way you want to, at the level you want to, if you don't put it back into yourself.
So true, so true. And honestly, if I were to be brutally honest with you, I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to think of that third relationship because I thought your relationship with your, significant other, your
Mm-hmm.
relationship with your baby. What's that third relationship, Catherine? Was what was going through my head. And then when you said
Yes.
self first, it's just like no brainer, but
Yes.
that was not even an option for me. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So moms, self first,
Yeah.
please.
And it's not and I'm sure you've heard this, maybe you've thought it even yourself, like we think it's selfish, right? Like we think we're being, I need, I really want to work out, or I really would love to go out with some girlfriends, or I really would like to go, just read this book I've been wanting to read, whatever it is for you. And we think like, but our kids need us. Like I worked a lot this week or whatever. If whatever you need to be a better parent, if you're like so depleted and then you're going to come in and try to be like, you know, at your A game, it's like we don't have enough to give. So if it helps me to like take a nap over on the weekend because then I can have more fun with my kids, then I need to do that. Whatever that is, like if if I'm a better parent because I spend 30 minutes and work out, at the end of the day before I come into the house and do family time or whatever it is, then I should do that for myself. Whatever, like, what are those things? Because then if you can be a better parent, but if you're feeling like you get you're tired, you get resentful, you feel like, you're just you're dragging or whatever it is, then that's not like it's not the quantity of time we spend with our children. It truly is like the quality of time we have for them. And I think the quality is better when we're taking care of ourselves, when we feel better, when we feel rested, when we feel, like we have that we can give to others, to our children, to our partners, whatever.
Yes, and you can actually have fun.
Yes. Yes,
Oh my goodness,
exactly.
yes. One of my former clients, a mom of, well, they were family, so mom, dad. But mom, they had three children, and two of them had special needs. One was medical,
Mm,
the other one, Down syndrome, autism.
mhm.
And that woman, I don't know how, I mean, she always so upbeat. I was like, "How do you
Mm,
do it?" And they do
yeah.
things together. They'd go to the beach together. They would,
Yeah.
and she laughed. And that was so
Yeah.
amazing because that is not what
Mhm,
I see a lot of times. Parents are like,
mhm,
"I'm so tired. Can you?" Or like, I get this, like, "Can you just watch them so I can take a nap?" Like,
mhm.
but I understand, not what I'm there for, but I'm human too. So yes, go ahead and take a nap and because you'll be no good to anyone
Yeah.
if you're sitting,
Yeah.
dozing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just sad though that we don't realize the value as moms of taking care of yourselves. And I mean,
Mhm,
dads need to do it as well. But
mhm,
typically moms take the heavier load when it
mhm.
comes to parenting. I mean, there are a lot of dads out there who are doing it and
Yeah. Well, and this is what I tend to see is like dads tend to be better about taking time for themselves. Like they're not waiting for permission or, whereas I feel oftentimes we're waiting for permission or we're waiting for that perfect moment. And let's be honest, it's just not good. It doesn't usually like show up on our doorstep and says like, oh, I'm here, go work out or whatever
That's
your thing
right.
is. And so it's like we can't wait for that. We can't wait for that perfect moment or that permission or whatever. We just have to say like, hey, I need to do that. I'm gonna go do this. Like you've got kid duty, like, and that's what they do. Like they're gonna take it. Like I'll have mom tell me, he's like, oh, my husband, he gets up, he works out in the morning, he takes a shower, and I'm still there, like, trying to get things ready, and I'm holding the baby, and it's like, how come he always gets to do those things and I don't? And I'm like, well, why is that? I don't know. He just does, so oftentimes it's like, I don't know, he just does it. Yeah. Why are we just not doing it? And I mean, I definitely think we're better when we, work together and,
Mhm.
um, try to schedule it out and, make sure that we're supporting each other in the best ways. So that's like, you know, I ask these three questions. Is like the first one is like, what are you doing to make sure you're taking care of yourself? Like for both of you, like what are you both doing? And then we can figure out like how do we support each other to make sure that we're getting what we need, that we're each getting what we need to like, fill our cup or put our oxygen mask on first, whatever, however you want to look at it. And then and then the second question is like, how are we making sure that we're connecting and supporting each other? um what do we need? What do we need to make sure that we're working together? What do we need to make sure that we have that intimacy and have that connection with each other? So and we got to talk about it, we got to check in, we got to see it, because as our children grow and age and get older, like it's going to look different. It's going to be, some things will be harder to do and maybe we'll have less time to do things for ourselves, but doesn't mean you shouldn't take it. Or maybe there'll be less time, you know, less time to, go on a date or whatever, but doesn't mean we shouldn't seize those moments when they come in, and just, as they get older, and, that they need us less, right? Like there's more time, like my kids can, entertain themselves for a long period of time now. So, I have way more time in my day than I used to. I
Right.
mean, kind of. So, but you know what I mean? So it's like then it will adjust and it will change, but doesn't mean like because, you know, so as our kids get older, we'll get more time for ourselves, we'll get more time for our partners. And so I think it's important that even when it's less time, that we're seizing those moments so that we, you know, can grow together versus like grow apart, or feel like, you know, like you'll hear of older couples or kids or couples that have older kids, and the kids move out and they're like, I don't even know my partner anymore, because we've been off raising our kids and doing our thing, that we didn't grow together. So I really encourage, like seize those little moments, seize, even if it's like, short periods of time throughout the week or whatever, because it will help you grow together. And then as your kids get older and you get more time, you'll feel more connected.
Oh gosh, so important. And two, when your children see you parenting together, you're being such an
Mhm.
amazing model for them as to what a relationship, what parenting should look like later on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I mean that happens with our kids. Like we've been doing, once we realized, like, uh, it was hard. Like I got into doing this work because I was like, why was no one telling me that being a new parent was so hard? Why didn't I know? Like, I was a marriage and family therapist at the time, but it didn't really sink in to me that it would be such a rough transition, even with a good partner that I love, that, that we had good communication. Having a baby changes everything drastically, and how you communicate changes, because you need to do it on a whole nother level when you have a child. Like you need each other so much more than you did before, because it's like hard work. So so once we've figured out like, oh, we need to make sure that we're prioritizing us as a couple, things change. And now our kids are always like, do we have a date night? When's your date night? Like, are you going out? We go out, like we're gonna hang out with Nana. Like, what are you guys still doing here? So it's like, it definitely makes it easier when they're not like upset that you're like leaving, or going out or doing your own thing. It's like they see us like have a good time and we want to spend time together. And they also see us like, have hard conversations or disagree on things. And I want them to see it all, because I want them to learn like you can not always agree with someone you love and still work through it and get along and want to spend time together. Like that's just life. If you're going to be in an intimate relationship with anyone, you're going to have to learn how to you're gonna you're not gonna have to learn. You're gonna have disagreements. You're going to have conflict. And
Mhm.
then how do you work through that? And so they've witnessed that. I mean, it's not like we're yelling or anything, but they've seen us disagree, and then we come back, we apologize, if we have to, and we work through conflicts. So
That is so beautiful and so important, because if
mhm.
they see this, never argue, never, and again,
Mhm.
not necessarily argue, but disagree.
Yeah.
Everything's always, rainbows and candy floss. Then how do they learn to deal with adverse situations? Like, well, my mom and dad never disagreed, and why are you disagreeing with me? That could cause some problems for them, relationship wise later on.
Right. I mean, my oldest is 13 now, and middle school, junior high, I mean, that's a rough time period for people, right? Like those are hard ages. And you know and I think for the most part, he's doing pretty well, but there's been conflicts and stuff with friends, and being really upset and not wanting to talk to them. And you know so then helping him, like, okay, like how do you resolve that conflict? Like you can't just like cut people off. Or like I saw like one time, it's like, blocking someone from his phone. He finally got a cell phone and he like blocked someone. I'm like, no, no, we do not block people like that. Like you can't just don't like what they say and you like cut them off. Like, right? Like that's not how it works. Like you have to have a conversation, or you need to say something. You need to, you know, people are going to make you mad all the time, but if they're a friend, you've got to like figure out, and it's worth having a relationship with them. You've got to talk to them about things. You got to have the hard conversation, and it's not easy for like a
Yes.
teen or preteen, but so it's like kind of teaching him that. And has it always been graceful? No, but I checked, there's no one blocked on his phone right now, so that's good too. And maybe he deleted them, I don't know, but do you know what I mean? Like, but I feel like if all of us, like, I feel like so many conversations, like if we would just talk to each other about it,
Mhm.
could resolve so much easier than just being like feeling like shutting people out, or and not having conversations. And this totally going off on a tangent because what but I mean, I think this has to do with like our relationships, right, with our partners. Like I can just get mad at my husband, and then hopefully it blows over, and then we don't talk about it, and then it comes back a little heavier the next time, and
Yes.
then I'll blow over. But it's like if I talk to him, it doesn't get heavier, it doesn't get harder, it doesn't put up this like wall, like I always like call it like a wall of resentment or something that just gets bigger and bigger if we're not addressing the issues that make our relationship challenging.
Absolutely. And when you go through that, you bond more, I find,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
you've, you know, um, overcome this challenge, and now it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you know your partner a little better, and you
Mm-hmm.
can just get a little more, a little closer.
Yeah, like we see each other better that way. And
Yeah.
nothing says like having a secure relationship as being able to really see each other and like, be safe in that relationship. That's like, okay, I see you, I see the good, I see the bad,
Yeah.
and I still love you anyways. And like that, I mean, that helps secure that relationship.
Exactly. So true. Now, I don't want the time to go by without us talking about
Mhm.
your book. So please tell us about your book, Miss Catherine.
So this is my book, right? So I mean, I'm like I had said, I was a really marriage and family therapist, and we had our first son, and I was like, rocked our world. And I was like, I wish I would have known so many things. And my husband and I had an opportunity to teach a workshop, and we've been teaching it for 12 years. And in that came our book, because we were doing it locally, right here in Sacramento, California. And so I wanted to like share the information I had more. And so it's basically our workshop that we've taught for years, and with stories and examples and things that we learned ourselves and things that we learned from other people. And even though, we're all so different, we have different experiences, we also, there's so many similarities as well. And so we talk, I break the book down into the three sections, which is those three questions, like what are you doing to make sure you're taking care of yourself, what are you making sure you're taking care and supporting your relationship, and then I guess I never mentioned the third one, and the third one is what am I doing to what are we doing to make sure that we're taking care, taking care of and connecting, bonding with our child. And that, I mean, is we do a lot for our kids.
Mhm.
And so that's usually not the one people struggle with, but it also is the one where sometimes I'll find one partner is doing more than the other one, and they're feeling frustrated with their other partner, but then sometimes not realizing what we're doing to like push the other one out, as we're like, maybe micromanaging them or doing whatever that is, so it's like making sure, like, how are you both building that strong relationship with your child? And then, and I tell people all the time, it's like these areas, these questions are things that you work on and address from now until they move out and probably beyond. Because now, is like I said, I have a 13-year-old, and he spends a lot of time with his friends and doing his own thing. But I still need to make sure I have a connection with him, and that I do things to bond with him. And so what I did with him as a little boy is way different than how I spend quality time with him now. So those questions you ask, and they change, and your needs change and their needs change, so it's like you're constantly like checking in, but like how are we like supporting these like really important relationships in our life?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so, so important. And like I said, I've learned so much because here I left myself totally out of the equation when it came to, you know, those relationships.
Yeah, so don't do that.
Right? And that's the thing, parents, and I'm sure most parents do that.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I think we constantly need to be reminded that. Like I mean, I teach it, I know it, and sometimes I'll like check in with myself, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like you put yourself as getting pushed back on the on the list of things, and you need to readjust how you're doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. And where can people find your book, ma'am?
Well, it's anywhere books are sold, Amazon or any of those book places, but you can also check it out on my website, which is happywithbaby.com.
Okay, which is also the name of the book.
Yes, yes, it is to make it easy. So I remember.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so simple. And, it just says it all,
Yes.
right? It says
Yeah.
it all. So, Ms. Catherine, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and just, helping us through this because, like I said before, so many parents are going through it and they don't know. And I didn't even
Yeah.
realize men suffered from
Yeah.
PMAD.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
wow. So, again, thank you. Be blessed and
Thank
hopefully
you.
do this again sometime.
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you, Teresa.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
I'll put you on the
Bye.
spot with that one.